Okay, so very quickly in South and North Node. If you have, I don't work with Chiron, so I cannot tell you. Maybe they're healers of some sort. I've heard Chiron is a healer. But South Node means that in a past lifetimes you had an intense, you worked a lot on yourself and you were quite isolated. I have that. South Node or Ketu in the first house. We also call it Ketu, the South Node and Ketu are the same. And I even had past life regression, and I saw that I saw 3 past life, and I was always alone. First house is about being alone, and I was always I was doing some breathing exercises, trying to control the body, to understand the body, and I was trying to understand myself, and I was exploring myself, self-awareness. I was developing self-awareness and doing things on my own. I knew where the village was and stuff, but I just wanted to do things on my own. I was isolating and lonely and stuff like that. Then I lived in another life in a forest. I was German and I was alone like a witch in a forest or something. Not witch, but a herbalist or something. And so such people were so focused in past lifetimes. So maybe they were in the military, North Node, South Node in the first house, the physical. They were focusing on mastering the physical body or being independent. They learned to be independent in past lifetimes, to rely just on themselves. And you see a series of incarnations where there is a lot of work on themselves, a lot of work on self-awareness, a lot of work on the physical body. Maybe they were a warrior. Maybe they were someone connected with the physical body. Often people, when they regress, they see themselves, just they couldn't even have marriages, or, the opposite, which is where Ketu is, Rahu is always the opposite. The South Node is always opposite the North Node. South Node is past lifetimes and the skills that you bring naturally. So people with the South Node in the first house bring naturally in this lifetime skills of self-awareness. They're very self-aware. Actually, they might be painfully shy sometimes because Ketu wants to hide. Now they've done this in past lifetime. They don't want the spotlight on them. And they might be so self-aware that they think everyone is watching them and following their movement, but it's not. It's their own self-perfectionist. Whatever Ketu is, we're very perfectionist because we've done this in past lifetime and we demand a lot from ourselves in this lifetime now. So they have very high expectations of themselves. They're very critical about themselves. There's very self-perfectionist thing, but also there is very little ego because they've worked on the ego in past lifetimes. So there is like whatever Ketu is the dragon's tail. Basically, the myth is that it was one dragon, it was a demonic being, and it wanted to be like the gods. So it went and drank the immortal juice of the gods. This was Rahu, and Ketu was one being, and the gods split it in two. So one became the tail, and they were split into the other one became the mouth of the dragon. Okay. The head. So Ketu is the tail. And these people in the tail, there is no head, there is no ego. So such people have eliminated a lot of the ego. So people with the South Node in the first house are egoless very often. They're not selfish so much, but at the same time they're like empty screen because the identity it's empty. Because what do you do through the tail? You excrete. So they excrete a lot of their sense of self. They're not, they might be even confused, just like Neptune. For me, Ketu and Neptune are very similar. So they often can be very, they might not know who they are and what they want. They don't have very strong auric boundaries. Their aura is porous. So entities and loxin can go through them and can attach themselves to them, or they can be strongly influenced by others because they kind of, when you don't have a strong ego boundaries, yes, this is very spiritual position. Yes, if you want to travel astrally, it's the easiest position to leave your body because Ketu is to excrete, your soul can come out of the body. But if you're not at that level, you can just find yourself always influenced by outer influences. And you kind of, because it's headless, you often want to be in a state of no thinking. You're craving for no thinking. It's a tail. It doesn't have thought. It doesn't have brain. And how do you do that? You drink or you take drugs or something. So Ketu in the first house is a dangerous position for addictions. You have to be careful. If you don't have that, well done. But Ketu is actually yearning for meditation. No thought, no outer, there is no ears, no mouth, nothing here, the senses. So how do you attain spiritual access to other dimensions and worlds? When you stop the outer world, when there is no senses, when you see, you disconnect from hearing, seeing, and there is no thought in your brain, then your soul can access higher dimensions and you can travel astrally. So people with Ketu on the ascendant can do that easily. They can slip in and out if they try. I haven't tried because I have too many planets in the 3rd, 11th, and 7th. As I said, these are busy houses, but they often want to be in a state of no thought and no, to stop the thought. And they can do that, unfortunately, sometimes with substances. And Ketu is smoky, they can smoke and stuff like that. It's not always the case. This is the most spiritual position, is to have Ketu, one of the most spiritual, to have Ketu on the ascendant, because it gives you this access. But also, when you don't have a strong ego, and there is very easy for others to control you. And you're like an empty vessel when Ketu is in the 1st house. Empty vessel, and others project on you their whatever they want. That's why such people can become cult leaders. Someone said I'm a cult leader because others think they know you. They project on you whatever they want to see. They see you and they project. And people write to me, Lada, I consider you like my best friend. I never spoke to you, and I'm honored. This is great. But they don't really know the person, but they project onto the person whatever they want. And like Jennifer Aniston, they can become very loved people. Jennifer Aniston have Ketu on the ascendant. Cameron Diaz have Ketu on the ascendant. People don't really know them, but they kind of, the empty screens that others project whatever they want to project on, and that can create iconic figures and iconic personalities of some sort. But at the same time, they can be lost. You're a tail without head. They can be lost in their lives, and they can be often feel like in certain periods in their life, they can feel totally directionless. There's no help, and they can be susceptible, as I said, to escapism and stuff like that. But otherwise, this is the most powerful position for spiritual and for slipping out of your body, if you want. Okay, and it means that in past lifetimes, you mastered the ego, you mastered the self and self-knowledge. In this lifetime, the dragon's head is in the 7th house. You have to master relationships. We'll speak about that when we speak about the 7th house. Because they were more isolated socially before, loners, now they have to learn to do correct relationships with others. But again, they're more susceptible to predatory influences from others. They have to learn to be discerning in relationships. Often they make a lot of mistakes in relationships, and they have and partners often control them or influence them and drain them out of life force or others. And often such people also have less vitality. The 1st house is vitality. Ketu is excreting. The life force is excreted much more easily. It goes to that's why they need time to recoup and regenerate alone, just like Neptune in the 1st house, or just like the ruler of the 1st in the 12th. So psychic sponges as well. What happens if you have Rahu in the 1st house? Rahu, or the North Node, it's indicated like that, is the dragon's mouth in the 1st house. These people are hungry for life, lustful life. They want to get everything from this life. While Ketu in the 1st house, they can be quite apathetic sometimes. They might have everything in the world, be top of the world, and they're like, it's the tail, it excretes, they feel emptiness sometimes. And that's what connects you. They don't find meaning often in the material world, and they often have to, look for meaning in spiritual things. Ketu makes you look within, go within. Rahu makes you look outside and look for satisfaction from outside. These people are ravenous. When they have Rahu in the 1st house, they're ravenous. They want to get experiences out of life. They eat and they never get full because they have no tail. They're disconnected from the tail. It just comes. So such people are like Charlie Sheen has Rahu in the 1st house. Again, this is a combination for, there might be problems with drugs, but not because these people are like they want to get away from it, like Ketu in the 1st house, or they want to just stop. They think, they just want to merge with something higher. No, they're more attracted, Rahu in the 1st, to uppers, to keep their vitality up, excitement. They want to grab more from life. They want to have the most from life, and often they become very successful, Ketu in the 1st house, they can become iconic cult leaders without even knowing they're famous. They're totally clueless. you know, they're like empty slate that others project on, and they can, even if they're not famous in the world, they can be famous in their society or whatever. Rahu becomes famous because it wants fame. Rahu in the first becomes famous because it wants validation of the person, and they're here to find themselves in this lifetime. In a number of lifetimes before, they were codependent in relationships, they were kind of under the shadow of a partner or something, partnerships. Now they're here to grab with full hands from life, from what life has to offer, and they have lustful life. They're very, for them, the physical appearance is very important. They have to maintain the physical appearance. Often Ketu in the first house neglects the physical appearance. Honestly, you have to see me normally. Rahu in the first house enhances, magnifies the physical appearances. They can also magnify and enhance boobs or whatever, something to make them very exotic, very, they want to be the first. Remember what the myth is? Rahu, or the whole dragon, wanted to appropriate position that was not for them to become gods. So such people can be posers sometimes. They want to be in higher positions than when they're born. They're born somewhere, they want to go higher. Meghan Markle has Rahu in the first house. Look at the success. They can have sudden rise in life, Rahu in the first house, because they're ambitious, because they're opportunistic. Nothing bad about that. They're here to explore that. And they're here to carve their own path. And often Rahu is something that we haven't done in past lifetimes. So often we make mistakes in the first part of life. So the first house is your path in life. What is your mission? So they might try different personas. They can often transform their personalities. They can try this, they can try that, you know, until they find what is authentically truly theirs. But they're here to experiment in their life, because Rahu is a very experimentative position. They're here to experiment with who they are, with different looks, with different personalities, with different social positions, and to focus on themselves. That can make them selfish, but they have to focus on finding who they truly are, not focusing on fulfilling their selfish desires, not in this way, focusing to find out who their authentic, what their authentic interests are, what their authentic, to become independent as well, not to be in the shadow of someone. The more they try to cling to a partner, to cling to find someone to help them, the less things happen for them. Rahu in the first house has to first make it on their own, and then they'll find a good partner. Like Meghan Markle, you know, she first made it on her own. And Rahu in the first house is, we have lots of people with Rahu in the first house. Let me see. Charlie Sheen, we said. Halle Berry, by the way. Rahu is something foreign. Remember, when the Rahu is in the first house, there is something foreign about your appearance, something exotic. You might be mixed caste, or you might, for example, you might be from two different, you know, parents from different countries, or you might feel supernatural and self-identify in foreign places. Often your path in life is through foreign cultures, or through foreign, being part of groups that were not your birth group, that were not your birthright. Actually, these people can make their path in much more higher social places and classes than what they were born in, because the Rahu, the snake, slides through and wants to get to higher. And actually, such people, as I said, they can have sudden rise in status. Look at Meghan Markle again, you know. And I had my friend, she had Rahu in the first house, and it's funny, but she basically she's white, but she's mixture, you know. Her father is Spanish, her mom is Bulgarian, and she only was with, the only friends that she ever was and was hanging out and infiltrated was basically African American. She just says, this is my culture. Sorry, I'm white, but these are my people. Rahu is in appropriating something that is not yours as yours, and feeling much happier with it, whether it's a different than your birthright, different social status, different caste, different mixture. And she basically is the friends of the biggest African American celebrities in the USA now. You know, she hangs out with all of them. It's, you know, and it's rare to let some white girl do that, but she totally is poser. The North Node Rahu can be a poser, can really take the identities of something just to achieve its goals, but it's not bad poser, you know. You need to adapt, to be progressive if you want to achieve certain goals. And Rahu in the first house is about discovering, though, their true identity. So a few times they might have a they might be influenced. They need to know who they truly are and what their true interests are. And the more they create their unique persona, not by borrowing other people's personalities, not by, but they have to experiment, try this, try that. What does it feel truly truthful for them? Then only will they have and balance their relationships. Okay, that's enough.